It's time now to take a look at stories making headlines on Nigerian newspapers this Thursday morning. And we have a host of them right here with us. We begin with First News. And First News has the latest angle on the lingering ASU strike, as we highlighted earlier in the news. Now, it calls it deadlock. Strike not ending soon. FG not serious. And that's according to ASU. Says further that government team came with nothing to latest meeting. Situation now even worse than when we started. That's according to the striking lecturers union. Blueprint is next. FG ASU face-off persists. Electricity workers suspend strike. Still talking about the state of the universities as the schools are still on strike. And now we move on to The Guardian. Big story there is on the nationwide blackout. It says 3 billion naira lost to TCN strike as greed crashes. Electricity workers suspend industrial action. 11 discos issue notices on darkness, urge communities to safeguard installations. That's all on The Guardian. And finally, with me is the Nigerian News Direct, still on the power sector. It says electricity grid collapse to worsen over NNPC's cut in gas financing. That's it on the Nigerian News Direct.
Right, let's cross over now to the leadership newspaper. And on the front burner here, the $418 million Paris Club refund is the focus here. Governors fire back at Malami, accuse him of pursuing his self-interests. Frown at media campaign by the Attorney General of the Federation and said states will not give up until they get justice in court. This issue has been on the front burner since. That's what the leadership has. The Nation newspaper says that the governors hit Malami on $418 million Paris Club refund. AGF's action self-serving will pursue the matter to Supreme Court. There's been the back and forth between governors and the Minister of Justice. This Nigeria is next, and it says a $418 million Paris Club refund. Governors accuse Malami of fraudulent claims. Vow to pursue matter in court to highest level. Proposed to intervene in lingering ASU strike. Okay, that's what this Nigeria has. And from there, let's go to the Punch newspaper, and now talking about the PDP crisis. Peace threatened. Wike Atiku's men disagree over Ayu, right? Ayu must go for talks to proceed, as governor's men are saying this. Ayu won't resign, says the PDP team, right? These are issues in the People's Democratic Party. Business Day is next, and it says vessels seized in Equatorial Guinea spotlights oil theft in Nigeria. Vessels seized in Equatorial Guinea spotlights oil theft in Nigeria. That's Business Day. From there, let's go to Standard Times now. Standard Times says 18.9 billion naira bush clearing contracts. Reps set to unmask contractors, right? The CAC and the Federal Inland Revenue Service. Right? Recall that this is not the first time money is running into billions have been said to have been used to clear grasses and bushes. This draws attention to one of those. Right? From there, let's go to Daily Trust, which is the last one we're looking at here on my side. 2023 e-transmission of election results has come to stay. INEC is saying this. That is what you see on Daily Trust. E-transmission of election results has come to stay. 27 by-election pending, and what we learned from Kenyan presidential poll. Debates good for democracy. Recall that INEC was fully represented in Kenya following the elections, the presidential elections there too. So they've been seeing a lot of these things. Also offering advice to them as we are also seeing the dynamics of what's going on and playing out there.
Absolutely. The last hasn't been heard on the Kenya election, especially as we hear, of course, the unprecedented development that happened even within the state run, the INEC version in Kenya, talking about the country's electoral commission, 4 out of the 7.
Electoral and Boundary Commission.
Right. The 4 out of the 7 commissioners said they had nothing to do with
they said they wouldn't sign. They wouldn't sign the papers.
The eventual result, even though some alluded to the fact that these 4 were the ones that were appointed by the outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta, and so there could be some form of sympathy that they exhibited. But by and large, it appears that the generality of Kenyans appear to be rejoicing, even though these are indeed tense times. But talking about INEC and perhaps lessons that could be learned from Kenya. Now, analysts here in Nigeria have said that perhaps there's nothing essentially different other than the timing. Election in Kenya voting started at 6 a.m. and ended at 5 p.m. Essentially, according to code now,
but they did a lot of hand counting.
Something that they could
did
have done.
hand counting, ballot counting.
Right.
You don't have that again. So if you have that in Nigeria, you have ballot snatching, you have fights over, you have violence and people fighting. But this time, but now we have electronic transmission of results. So from the polling booth, from the what do you call it? The polling voting area, you just lock everything into the system, and if you want to steal ballot boxes, it makes no difference because the right number is already in the system.
And they also said that
so that's why that one way is different.
Right.
The other one of the problems with this election in Kenya is that 4 of the electoral officers agree with Raila Odinga because they said that the system was opaque. So that is what casts doubt on the final numbers of the election. So they have to resolve all of this in court.
Well, the man himself has said he's going to challenge.
He's going to challenge.
And that doesn't appear. That is vintage Raila Odinga, if I'll call it. Of course, he's always been at the receiving end, so to speak. This is not his first time. This will be like his 4th stage running, and he had previously challenged, and this doesn't appear to be any different. The BVAS technology was also utilized in Kenya, further buttressing notions that technology is the way to go for credible election.
Yeah, a lot of those technology were deployed, but they had lots of hitches as well.
Absolutely.
At the initial takeoff of the election. But however, the Odinga going to court is a good thing, in the context of the fact that if you have issues, you're not comfortable with the outcome of an election, instead of creating chaos and all of that, just go to court.
Not the streets.
If there are evidence, tender them before the court. The court will look at everything, and then whoever they feel is just will be declared. So it's a good thing for the democracy and system, because nobody wants to go back to the days of 2007 when over 1,000 people were killed following disagreements in elections.
Indeed.
So that's how the thing is. One would expect that Odinga would have had an upper hand at the election because of the support of the incumbent president, Uhuru Kenyatta, but that's not the case. The point there is the power is getting to the people and the people themselves, which is a good thing too. So these are all the issues around it.
Right, interesting enough. Of course, back home, we are not unmindful of the situation, especially as many heaved a sigh of relief at the suspension of the electricity workers' strike. That it was initially called one that would have no end, indefinite strike, beginning from Wednesday, and almost at the break of dawn on Wednesday morning, the lights were out, and this morning, just about leaving home, the light was restored in my area. Well, even that day alone, losses that would have no doubt been incurred by business owners, hoteliers, and the like, one wouldn't have been able to calculate them.
You see, what happened yesterday reminds me of the last sentences in Peter Abraham's novel, Mind Boy. He said, one by one, the lights of the streets of Redidop were turned off, of Malika, of South Africa. Then suddenly,
and it seems
suddenly, everywhere became Isaiah 60. Say, gross The darkness covered the earth, gross darkness, the people. So that was what it was.
Water, like light, is, matters. Matters is priority for many people, especially when you look at the lingering ASU strike. On the flip side now, while the workers, the electric power workers say they're going to, return to work, but for 2 weeks, they insist, there appeared to be, nothing tangible from the ASU-FG meeting yesterday.
Yeah, the point there is still the same. And these are the issues to tell you, okay, we're going back to discuss. Like ASU has said, the government didn't come with anything new. The point there is, what are these issues? It's not a big deal. We have said it over and over and over again. The point, they can agree on this thing in 30 minutes if they want to, especially from the government. But it is the issue of interests and ego and all of that. I still believe, you bring up the issue of the IPPS versus the UTAS and all of that. It's not a big deal. If you say we give mandate to us to go and come up with a template, and they came up with a template or came up with an app, as the case may be, and you feel that there are still some features that we need to, I want to see some features in this UTAS you guys have created. You tell them, they will infuse it. So the concept of insisting that it must be IPPS or it must be UTAS and all of that, I think it's just something that two persons can work this thing out. If we're working together and I have my ideas and you have your ideas, we can marry the ideas together and come up with something new.
It makes us recall that, some people have clamored that perhaps the negotiation table should be widened to enable more stakeholders coming. And we've seen the Governors Forum also, opting to intervene somewhat. We don't know how to quantify
we're waiting to see
or weigh it.
Because it's a real blight on the government that these things should still continue. And the other thing is about money. As I've said, we don't have enough transparency about the back and forth between ASU and the federal government. We need to know. I mean, you've thrown Igige away from circulation, and you put a minister there. As I said, when this thing was done, I said, it's the same government, it's the same issues. You are just changing people, and then ASU itself was playing the game, and they kept throwing barbs at Ngige, as if Ngige is the one. I really pity Ngige in all of this. Ngige is like the ambassador. The ambassador to the aggrieved, but himself is not part of the narrative. He's not the one who created the policy. He's not the one who did anything, but he's the one who will go and meet the aggrieved. I say, it's kind of an amebo. To go and say, okay, this is what they say I should do. The official amebo for the aggrieved, but he is not the one making the policy. He's not the Minister of Finance. It's not the Accountant General. It's not the President. It's not the Minister of Education. It's not the Minister of Power.
and looking at the...
It's a burden he has to carry.
It's a burden he has to carry. Yeah. It's what they brief him, that he goes to, and then it's just like whipping the messenger.
Right. Well, okay, interesting, but of course, still worrying when you look at the spate of time since February the 14th, and nothing appears to have been resolved.